On this episode of the Wild Table, we're off to the Hawke's Bay, where we get to visit another stunning hunting HQ block, the Highlands. Here, we tee up with hunting guide Scott, who shows us around this impressive 400 hectare property, which boasts a solid number of animals, including deer, goats, turkeys, and even some rare Arapawa rams. On day one of this wild trip, we managed to harvest a wild ram and get a crack at some deer too. Scott,
how you doing, Phil?
Pleasure to meet you, man.
Yeah, welcome aboard.
Yeah, thanks very much for welcoming us onto this block.
It's all good.
Tell me a little bit of something about this place. How big is it?
Well, it's about 400 hectares. It's one of the original first settler properties.
Yep.
Back in history, they introduced a few goats, first in the east coast.
Yep.
I think this farm and a neighbouring one next door over here were the first two. And they had yokes on them for weed control. Because blackberry was really bad back then.
So this is actually one of the first places
Yes.
on the North Island where we had goats.
Well, in the east coast anyway, as
Yep.
far as I know. My
Yep.
old dad tells me. So
And do you know how many goats were brought here originally?
about 100, I think.
Right.
He couldn't remember whether it was 100 each farm or 100 in total. So
Yeah.
there you go. And they soon spread
Few more than 100 now, eh?
yeah,
There's-
yeah.
There's bound to
Probably
be.
three or 400
Yeah.
each farm
Yeah.
at least. Yeah.
Yeah, we already had a little bit of drive around today, and obviously there's plenty of goats around.
Yeah.
So in terms of the animals that are actually here to hunt,
Yes.
what do we got?
Right. Well, we'll start off with there's the odd possum.
Yep.
Lots of rabbits and hares.
Yep.
The odd stoat. Turkeys.
Yeah, heard them.
Lots of goats, of course.
Yep.
Plenty of deer, predominantly red.
Yep.
Fallow might be here, but they hide very well.
Right on.
So you only see them occasionally.
Yep.
And we've got a handful of feral Arapawa sheep here in the bush.
That is very cool.
Yeah.
Not in a lot of places you can hunt Arapawa ram, eh?
No. Well, that's right. It's something unique. Others haven't got, and I thought it'd be great if we could, have it for people.
Yep.
Especially come along and do their first shooting experience.
Yep.
Guided around.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gotta say, Arapawa ram is actually one of the animals that's on my bucket list. What do you reckon the chances are of shooting one of them?
Oh, probably pretty good.
Yeah?
Pretty good, yeah.
Fingers crossed. that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
We're really excited to have a good look around and sort of, see what kind of animals you got running around.
Yeah.
But for now, thanks very much for meeting us, and
We'll go and get out there and do it.
sounds good, mate. Let's get out of here.
Okay.
The next morning, we get to enjoy a beautiful East Coast sunrise, with a steaming cup of coffee, that is. One of the advantages to hunting private land, there just ain't so much of a rush to get amongst it. It's not until the sun is up far enough to reveal a magical misty landscape that we get our boots on and start cutting a track. Right, so we just got the trusty side by side, and we're going to make our way up into the farm. It's about a 1,400 acre block, so a nice chunky piece of land. And from what I understand, there's a number of really good little hotspots for deer around. So we sort of, we're going to start having a look and making our way through. It's just before 7 o'clock, so we're just on prime time. It's been super wet, and there's a little bit of sun coming out, which is always a good combination for deer. Because obviously they've been getting nice and wet, and as soon as you get a bit of that sun coming out, they will want to be out and feeding and want to get nice and dry. So my feeling for today, it's going to be a pretty good day. So on this particular block, the guiding is part of the deal. And said guiding comes with a ride in a side-by-side ATV, which makes for a quick and easy ascent into the stunning but somewhat steep landscape. Up here,
the mist in the hills continues to be a spectacular start to our stay.
So, like we just drove for about all of 2 minutes, and like we're already like straight into it. It really seems like this farm has just got game for Africa. It's really cool to like just be on a farm and just like immediately be into the hunting. It's just that abundant here that pretty soon we're gonna run into an animal shortly. So. Gnarly. Man, that was so exciting. There was a red deer like 7 meters in front of me. The only thing is, we're here for a meat animal, we can't shoot any stags. And it was feeding and I just couldn't see its head, you know, so I was waiting and waiting and waiting. And then the wind just gave a little swirl and just smelled this bolt. That was really cool. That was like 7 meters in front of us. Meanwhile, Thor is unleashing his rage in the sky. That was cool. Really cool. There's a lot of deer on this farm.
So that deer got spooked pretty good. And in my experience, chasing after that is usually a waste of time. Long legs cover ground very quickly. Instead, we hop back into the ATV and take a slightly more adventurous path through the bush.
Right, so we just come from the top there where we saw that hind. Lots and lots of animal signs up there, but we sort of decided not to push too much further into the bush. Instead, we just hop back into the side-by-side and we're just going to make our way down. Sort of through the bush. In fact, there was a ram just in front of us, I think. Was it a ram? Yeah. Nice little Arapawa ram. So yeah, let's see what the next little section has in store for us. So we're kind of just like bumping down this track here, and then actually just saw like the tail end of an Arapawa ram just scooting around the corner. Now we do have permission to shoot one of them because he's got a broken horn. So we're just gonna go for a little bit of walk and see if we can catch up with those guys.
Due to overhunting in other countries, New Zealand is now one of the only places left where you can hunt Arapawa sheep. And hey, this ram has a badly busted horn, but our primary concern is to hunt for food anyway.
There's the dark one with the broken horn. So we just caught up with those Arapawa rams, and I was looking at the right one too, but they were huddled together right against the fence line. Not a good shot to take. Couldn't see what was beyond, you know. And they were like huddling together and stuff, so I didn't take the shot. It didn't feel good. And that's okay. I reckon you're always better off not to take the shot than to take the shot and have a big regret because you shot the farmer's cow or something. So the rams have gone downhill, and that's okay. We might chase them down, or we might continue to look for deer. We'll see what the guide has to say.
We decide to leave the rams be and concentrate on the area ahead. This farm is a sizable block and we haven't even really begun to explore the place. It takes a little bit of glassing, but it doesn't take long before we spot a small mob of deer and some goats hanging out in relative safety just by the edge of the property. These animals are a little too far to hunt, so instead I get the drone in the air to take a closer look. Sometimes the best part of hunting is just watching the animals in their natural state anyway. Of course, these animals eventually cotton on to danger when I push my luck with the drone and the mob begins to flee to safer havens. Never mind though, I know there are plenty more animals here, and pretty much as soon as I land the drone, we are right back to it anyway.
So we were just looking for deer because we'd actually let those rams go already, but just going back to the Arapawa rams, they just ended up popping out of the bush again, so I've just taken the one that had the broken horn, and he's down. Just gonna give that a moment, then I'll walk down there and check it out. So Arapawa ram has been on my list for quite a long time. And I had no idea that we were going to get an opportunity at one of these sheep here this weekend. But there you go, Arapawa ram. Beautiful, eh? He'd busted his horn, so he must have been scrapping or fighting, or could have been from a fall. I'm not sure. So no good anymore as a trophy animal, but absolutely perfect for me. Yeah.
This ram is a descendant of a flock of domesticated sheep released in New Zealand in 1867 as food for whales. Easy to see why, because these guys can reach 60 kg plus of prime meat. After the haul, we head back to quickly process the meat for the chiller before enjoying a bit of downtime with the lads. They even put on a barbecue with some wild game sausages from their own freezer.
We had 3 benches and it was out of
Radio. So after this morning's hunt, we had a bit of a break, had something to eat, had a coffee, and sort of recharged the batteries. And right now, Scott's joined us. This morning he wasn't with us, but this afternoon Scott's sort of going to take us up into the hills and do a little bit of guiding and a little bit of explaining for what's what around here. I really look forward to getting up there and sort of hearing your take on the land and your inside knowledge of where the deer are hanging out on this block.
Yeah, well, sometimes it can be all the difference of getting an animal on the ground or not. There's certainly parts of the paddocks they'll congregate around and graze, and other bits that you never see them on. Yeah. They've got imaginary sort of migration trails everywhere.
It's the old lay of the land, eh?
It is. Yep. Yeah. They travel at different to how we would. There you go.
Well, there you go. That's enough waffling. Let's hop in and
see what's lurking around up there.
That's it. He said it.
Yeah.
Where we go back into the hills. And as our luck would have it, the afternoon turns on the sun. And what I heard from previous conversation is that Scott has a little bit of a unique feature setup on this block.
Right now we're sitting in one of the blinds that you put on this property. This style of hunting in New Zealand is like really uncommon. It's very common in Europe and it's very common in the United States, but it's really uncommon in New Zealand. So this is actually the first time that I've seen this kind of a blind that's not for duck hunting.
Yeah.
What made you chuck these things on here?
So you can hide and you can actually be sitting there ready, out of the weather a bit, and observe the deer coming out to you.
Yep.
And we don't go into the heavy bush as a rule and chase them.
Yep.
They know once they get in the cover they're safe and they'll come back out.
Yep.
Otherwise they just move away.
And do you think that because you guys don't go chasing them, do you think that makes them sort of a bit more feel a bit more secure on the?
It does, yeah. They've got their sort of safety security line. Yeah. It works really well.
We were just driving up on the way and saw a couple of mobs of deer just right there on the farm. So that's really cool to see.
Yeah. It's nothing uncommon.
So for like a beginner hunter, I think this is just ideal. To have the opportunity to see an animal and have enough time to really get off a clean shot. And speaking from experience for someone who mostly taught themselves, having that opportunity to get off a shot without getting too rattled and having to do everything too quick, I think is gold as a beginner hunter. So I really like this idea. I think it's great.
It's quite hard getting along here.
So hunting being hunting, I've been sitting there now for the last hour or so and no deer coming up. I'm going to take matters into our own hands a little bit and go for a walk and sort of, now that we have the lay of the land, go and have a look. It's definitely, the time is definitely sort of creeping on to that magic hour. So the amount of animals on this farm is pretty staggering, so I think we'll see something. And if not tonight, tomorrow morning, for sure.
It's still early in the evening for this time of year, about 6:30 roughly, but I have a sense that somewhere in a sheltered spot on this farm with this many deer, some will be out for a sneaky feed. Turns out, I'm right. Stay tuned for an action-packed part 2 of the Highlands adventure, where we get up close and personal with some beautiful red deer.
Jeepers.